Okay. My name is Emmett. I'm a certification officer in the Department of Procurement Services. I handle the ACDBE, the Airport Concession Disadvantaged Business Enterprise, and the Disadvantaged Business Enterprises to do the certification for those programs, as well as I also handle the women, minority, veteran certification along with that. Okay. Introduction. So the two programs we're going to speak on today are the Disadvantaged Business Enterprise and the Airport Concession Disadvantaged Business Enterprise. They are known as DBE and ACDBE. We're going to go over the program requirements for the two certification programs. We're going to go over the certification process, certification application, and then we're going to speak a little bit about the benefits of becoming DB and ACDB certified by the City of Chicago. And once you are certified, the next step. Okay, the DPS, Department of Procurement Services, the mission statement is, we are the contracting authority for the procurement of goods and services for the City of Chicago. We pledge to work together as a team and with our customers to guarantee an open, fair, timely process by establishing, communicating, and enforcing superior business practices. Integrity, public trust, and the law are our guiding principles. The City of Chicago is a federal grant recipient subject to the United States Department of Transportation and the Federal Aviation Administration. DBE and ACDBE requirements fall under 49 CFR Parts 26 and 23. The objectives of the DBE and the ACDBE program are to ensure non-discrimination in the award and administration of Department of Transportation and FAA assisted contracts in the department's highway, transit, airport financial assistance programs, and airport concessionaire programs. To create a level playing field on which eligible businesses can compete fairly for DOT-assisted contract opportunities. The DBE program provides guidance for participation of DBE certified firms in federally funded contract opportunities. Okay. 49 CFR Parts 26 and 23 state that a business concern must be in order to become certified. A for-profit small business, which is at least 51% owned by one or more socially and economically disadvantaged persons, and whose management and operations are controlled by one or more of the socially disadvantaged owners, socially and economically disadvantaged owners. Airport concessions can include businesses that provides management consultations, goods, supplies, and advertising services to concessions operating at an airport. Okay. Groups defined by 49 CFR Parts 26 as socially and economically disadvantaged are Black Americans, Hispanic Americans, Native Americans, Subcontinental Asian Americans, Asian Pacific Americans, women, and other individuals who can individually prove social and economic disadvantage. Business size standards. For DBE firms, the 3-year average annual gross receipts must not exceed the SBA size standard for a firm's industry or cannot exceed a maximum of 23.98 million. It's important that it's going to be the lesser of it. So if you have a firm with like an SBA size standard of like 15 million, it's going to go by the 15 million and not the 23.98 million that a certified firm must fall under. Okay, sure. For example, there is a size standard. So if you're a firm, there's what's called the SBA size standards for different industries, and that's based on a commodity code, the NAICS code system. So if you look at the NAICS codes, it will give you a SBA size standard. Some of the size standard exceeds 23.98 million. Many of them fall below 23.98 million. But it has to be, in order to be a eligible firm, it has to be the lesser of either the SBA size standard or the 23.98 million for the 3-year average, correct. And then for ACDBE firms, the 3-year average gross receipts must not exceed 56.42 million for most firms. There's the following exceptions: 75.23 million for car rental companies, $1 billion in assets for banks, 1,500 employees for payphone companies, and 350 employees for automobile dealers. There's a difference because the capital requirements sometimes are greater for ACDBE firms because of the initial investment, so there's a higher gross receipt limit for ACDBE. There's a personal net worth standard for economically disadvantaged to qualify. The qualifying owner's personal net worth cannot exceed 1.23 million after adjustments for DBE and or ACDBE eligibility. There are a few items on somebody's personal net worth that are excluded, such as the value of your personal residence and the value of the firm that you own. They are excluded from the personal net worth standard. Okay. The following steps must be completed before your firm can be considered a certified DBE and or ACDBE with the City of Chicago. A firm must submit an online application at www.chicago.mwdbe.com. The firm must attach copies of all supporting documentation relating to the firm and the individual associated with the firm to the online application. There is a requirement for DBE and ACDBE firms. There must be an on-site interview and site inspection. If you're a firm, it's common for people operating out of their houses. It's fine if you're operating out of the house. It's just a requirement for the federal government that's a on-site inspection and short interview process. Well, the purpose of the visit is just to speak with you, try to make sure that you're qualified to operate that type of business. It all depends on what type of business you're operating as well. For example, if you're a supplier or a distributor, you might have a warehouse where you might have goods. If you're a restaurant, we might go out and look at your restaurant if that's where you're operating. Many of the firms are professional service firms that it's very common for them to operate out of the house. It's just a requirement by the federal government to kind of verify that you are who you say you are on the application, and to make sure that eligible individuals are the ones actually operating the firm. In some cases, there might be multiple owners, and it's important to see that the owner is actually a socially and economically disadvantaged individual and has the management ability to operate the firm. But it's a very straightforward process. It takes about 45 minutes to an hour, depending on the type of firm. Sure. Usually we hold the questions towards the end. I mean, I can, we're going to touch on that question a little long on the application. But your question was how long did it usually take from once the application is submitted? It usually takes about 90 days. It can vary depending on how many applicants have submitted their application at any time, but generally it takes about 90 days. Not a problem. Okay. You will need the following documents in order to fill out the DBE and ACDBE application. Evidence of citizenship or legal residency. Proof of equity contribution from the owners. Business documents for the specific type of firm that you operate. For example, a sole proprietorship should have copies of an assumed name certificate. For partnerships, copies of partnership agreement and assumed name certificate. For limited liabilities company, copies of the original and amended administrative agreements and the assumed name certificate. For corporations, the document required is the copies of articles of incorporation and bylaws. Copies of W-2s and 1099 forms for the current and previous 2 years for the owners of the firm. 3 years assigned tax returns for the corporation and the individuals. If the corporation is a new business, it's common for tax returns not to be available. In that case, just sign a statement on like a company letterhead indicating that it's a new firm and tax returns have not been filed for 2015, 2016, or 2017. And just indicate it's a new firm if that's the case. Financial statements including business balance sheets, assets and liabilities, income statements. 3 years assigned tax returns for your individual should be included as well, and the complete schedule should be included. The federal regulations require the performance of an on-site visit to the offices of the firm seeking DBE and ACDBE certification, the site inspection report of the applicant by the other U.S. Department of Transportation funded recipient may be relied upon to meet this requirement. For example, like if you become certified with the City of Chicago, you can take that certification for DBE and ACDBE certification and present that to another state. So it's very, no, not the state of it all. Like to another state. So it's like many DBE and ACDBE certified firms Chicago will be your home state certification. And you can take that, for example, if you have like a concession at the airport in Chicago, you may want to open one up in Milwaukee or something. So you can take the complete application you submitted to the City of Chicago and then submit that to another agency that you're seeking certification outside of Illinois. And the federal regulations say that they review it and will take our certification, just review it for validity and make sure it's accurate. And they will take the on-site site inspection by the City of Chicago and review that. Go ahead. Sure. It's a process. There's federal regulations on that, but your question was, how do you take, like, for example, DBE certification by the City of Chicago to other states? You apply through their department. It's not reciprocity at all, but there is an application. But the way it works is you provide like the same information you submitted to the City of Chicago when you became certified by DBE, and you take your certification letter from the City of Chicago and submit that to a separate agency, and they'll review it from that point on. And it's a common practice. It's supposed to get completed between like 30 and 60 days for when you seek that. Note, depending on the circumstances, a firm may or may not be notified when an on-site interview will be conducted. For the most part, you will be contacted. You'll be given weeks in advance notice. If that date doesn't work out for you, another day can be scheduled. In certain circumstances, you may not be notified if there's red flags or an issue involved for some types of firms. But for the most part, you will be contacted at a time. You'll be notified. It's very uncommon to not be notified. Okay, the approval and denial of an application can be based on ownership, disadvantage, business size determination, personal net worth standard, independence, control, and burden of proof, allocation. So, I mean, this is like the ownership, just to verify that the owner is the actual person owning. Disadvantage is making sure that the firm is, the owners of the firm are economically disadvantaged and socially disadvantaged. If you're a woman or a minority, or if you have, making sure you're disadvantaged. Business size, so your application will be reviewed to make sure you fall within the federal guidelines for DBE and ACDBE firms. Personal net worth will review your financials and determine if you're under the 1.32 million. Independence, it's to verify that the firm you're operating is independent and not relying on like a non-qualified individual, making sure that's involved. Okay. The benefits of becoming DBE and ACDBE certified by the City of Chicago, there is no application fee. When you apply for women and minority-owned businesses, there's a $250 fee. For the federal program, there's a no fee when you apply for certification. Certification as a DBE and or ACDBE provides opportunities for participation in U.S. Department of Transportation and the FAA federally funded contracts with the City of Chicago, Illinois Department of Transportation, the Chicago Transit Authority, Metra, and PACE. We have a relationship with a number of agencies that can provide assistance to DBE firms. These assistant agencies provide a variety of services to small businesses. The City of Chicago DBE ACDBE program demonstrates the city's continued commitment to the success of minority and women-owned businesses. The certification process typically takes about 90 days from once your application is submitted. In some cases, it takes longer if the information isn't provided thoroughly, and if in many cases, applicants don't provide all the information. We'll issue an RFI, or request for information, through the question and answer system on the website, and it's important to stay on top of that and respond within a timely manner to keep your application on track. Once you are certified, we provide one-stop certification. Once you are certified with the City of Chicago as a DBE, ACDBE, your certification is accepted by the Illinois Department of Transportation, Metra, PACE, and the Chicago Transit Authority. So that's where the reciprocity lies with this certification. These other agencies have their own DBE certification programs, but the City of Chicago's DBE, ACDBE certification is accepted. You can sign up for DPS alerts and DOA alerts for different contracting opportunities with the City of Chicago. All of the City of Chicago and its sister agencies contracting opportunities can be found online, and we provide you with a list of agencies that provide assistance to DBE firms. These assistant agencies provide services to assist in your business development. Okay. that wraps up the initial presentation. I'm free to, does anybody have any questions on the actual certification process? I can address any and all questions that you may have. Sure, here's a microphone.
Okay.
If you wouldn't mind.
Thank you for the wonderful presentation.
Thank you, thank you.
So if you already have MWBE certification, does that expedite the DBE and AB, the other one?
Oh, definitely.
Okay.
If you're MBE or WBE certified, it'll probably speed up the application process. Once an on-site inspection is completed, it's very quickly to get that completed.
So, on average, how long does it take a firm to pull together the application? And then you mentioned the RFI, excuse me, is that once you've submitted the application online, then you may get additional questions?
Correct. So, I mean, it's difficult for me to answer how long it will take an applicant to complete an online application. It's straightforward, just, I mean, such as like the M and W application. It really all depends on how you keep your information stored. If you have it electronic already in like PDF forms, it's really going to speed up the process. If you don't have the information like scanned, it may take you a while to have it scanned in. Also, there's a business consultant that works in the Business Affairs and Consumer Protection Agency. Her name is Stephanie Edmonds. She can help you with the actual online application and put in Edmonds.
So she's more general and she can help us here. That would kind of clarify what she was talking about.
It took me maybe about 3 months to put together all my documents. And then someone mentioned that I meet with this person, Stephanie Edmonds. She was really good. And I was hesitant to go because I felt like I could do it myself. But she was really good. And even once I turned everything in, I could follow. I could still call her now. This woman is really good.
Yeah, I've heard great things about her. I see her in the office very often. For example, your second part of your question related to
RFI, like what types of questions? That was my next question.
For example, like if tax returns are not provided, we might ask for that. If you don't provide a complete resume, we might ask questions on your background. I mean, it's typical questions that not everybody's asked additional questions. It's based on like how the application is put together and the information provided.
Anyone else? No other questions?
If anybody has any other questions, you can feel free to email me throughout the process with your application, and feel free. Yeah, free. You can ask me any questions if you don't want to be online. It's fine.